Hi everyone, it's Gary here from Echidna Sewing, and today I'm going to run through the process of hooping up the Embroider Buddy characters. And today, to help me do that, I am joined with one of my favourite team members, Mr. Benjamin Bear. He's one of our real popular team members actually, Benjamin, and he's also sharing the stage with Lambton Lamb. So, but he's going to sort of sit there for a while and not get too involved. But Benjamin Bear is going to be my helper here, and we're going to go through this process of hooping an Embroider Buddy. Really popular products for us, and we've had them now for, oh gosh, I think about 10 years. It's one of those products, when I first started selling these, I loved the outcome, but I hated hooping them because I didn't have this wonderful thing, our Echidna hooping station, or more to the point, the small hooping station. So I'll just quickly explain what we have. If you've already got a hooping station, you'd be well versed with it. You know how fantastic it is for hooping up these difficult items to do. If you haven't, then this is going to be an eye-opener for you. But this is our small hooping station. The way it works is it has two platens basically. So we've got the larger of the platen on the small one here, which is ideal for hooping up Embroider Buddies and small t-shirts and kids' clothes and so on. But if we turn it upside down, it has a sleeve board as well, which is fantastic for really difficult small tubular items when you're hooping them. Either way, it works by just simply turning it over. Now I'm just going to position that back there so the camera is going to pick up everything. Now these hooping stations come with a non-slip board and a steel plate underneath the non-slip board and a whole series of magnets. It'll all make perfect sense for you in a moment. The important thing when you're hooping an Embroider Buddy is to make sure that it's hooped firmly and fairly taut, and you've got the right stabilizers. So for doing this today, I'm going to be using our see-through cutaway, and that's going to give it good longevity. It's going to hold the design for years to come, and it's fairly soft and supple, so it doesn't give too much bulk to the design when it's finished. I'm also going to put a layer of topping, or what we call super solve, on top as well, and I'll show you how easy that is to do. I'll be stitching it on a machine that uses the slide-on brother hoops. Now, if you have any machine that has basically a 100 by 100 hoop system, which most of the brother product does, will be fine. Some models on the market, their hoops are just not small enough to fit these guys. So do talk to us if you don't have a brother machine, you've got a different brand. Just check with us first and we'll tell you whether it's going to work for you. But this is the 100 by 100 slide-on hoop, which would be typically used for left chest logos, any smaller designs, particularly for EB Bears. Remember, a little tip, folks, is always use the smallest hoop you can for the job you're about to embroider, and that's just one of the best embroidery tips you can possibly get. I have, before we start, I've actually loosened off the screw on the hoop quite considerably because these are relatively heavy. They're like a fleecy type effect, and by the time you put your stabilizer and you're topping in, you do need to have the hoop loosened fairly well, because you don't want to be pushing the hoop in to a point where you're almost standing on it or hitting it with a hammer to get the hoop in. Otherwise you'll damage your item, and we don't want to do that. Now, on the hooping station, the great thing about this is when we take the outer ring of the hoop, which is the bit that goes in the bottom, and in this case I'm going to position it just here like that. These hoops are particularly good to work with because they've got this little grid function here. And then we simply take the magnets that come standard, and these are very strong little magnets. They do hold very well. And we just pop magnets in to that grid area, and I've got the hoop nice and square there. And by the time we put 4 magnets in there, that means that hoop's not going to move anywhere. It's quite fixed and firm on the table. That's the challenge when you're hooping an Embroider Buddy. If you're doing it on a flat surface, it's really, really hard to keep everything in the right position, get your stabilizers in place, get the outer ring of the hoop in there. The inner ring then goes on top, and of course, if something moves while you're trying to do it, you'll end up hooping and you'll look at it and you go, oh, that didn't hoop correctly. So then you'll undo it and you'll do it again. And I know everybody watching this, if you've ever tried to hoop a difficult item, you've done that before. So you're totally with me. So what we've done is we put the outer ring of the hoop on the surface. You'll also notice that this is a really nice angle. It's ergonomically designed to be looking at you rather than you looking down at the table. So the positioning is correct, and of course this makes it easier for getting your hoops engaged. So another advantage of the magnets and the steel plate on the hooping station is that I can take my stabilizer, position it where I want it, and use another couple of magnets just to hold that in place. Now, I just pull that nice and firm, and I'm actually going to put another couple of magnets down here as well. And what that means is our hoop is nice and firm, it's not going to move, our stabilizer's in place, it's not going to move as well. So let's have a look at Benjamin. Now you might notice I've actually marked with a water-soluble pen, basically a center and a vertical and a horizontal, because I do need some sort of guide to work with, particularly if I'm aligning text and I really want everything centered and straight. So that's important. Now the way these guys work is it's a very clever design, and these come from a Canadian company called Parkdale Novelty, and the Embroidery range has been around for a long time, 10 years as I said. And it's very clever because what happens is you just unzip his bottom there and you take that pod out. So that pod forms the belly, and we'll just put that out the way for a moment. And then you do have to reach in deep and get the head pod out as well, because we don't want the bulk of that. So now it looks a bit unceremonious, I know. Trust me, it doesn't hurt when we do this. That's at least what Benjamin says. Now, the thing here is we turn it upside down, because the part of the hoop that slides onto the machine is at the bottom of the hooping station, and we need to slide it on this way. So all we do, remember I've opened my hoop up so it's quite relaxed. I then simply slide Benjamin over here. Be careful not to disrupt the magnets. They are pretty strong, but if you pull on them the wrong way, you might get them dislodged. And we just gently pull this over until we've kind of got it roughly in position. There is a bit of moving and prodding and poking and stretching, because these guys, to get the fullness of the shape of the bear, there is a bit of a fullness in the belly of the fabric. So it's not like hooping a flat piece of fabric. You do have to sort of maneuver this a little bit. So I kind of just roughly position that where I want it. Now I'm going to use a topping. For a lot of people this is difficult, but on a hooping station it makes it so much easier. It's just our Super Solve. I'm just going to pop that into place there. I can see through it so I can get a good feel for where my marks are. I just hold that in position, just gently grab my inner ring, and this is where you just got to play around a bit. So you kind of position until you feel the inner ring is sitting in the outer ring. Now at the moment my bear is too far, Benjamin is too far to my left, so I'm just going to gently maneuver him around and pull it down a bit, because I do want that center that I've got there relatively in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect, but close enough to. So here we go, we're getting into position. So you notice I'm never letting go of the inner ring of the hoop. If I need to change hands, I do that. Change to the other hand, but don't let go of the hoop. Now a little bit of maneuvering here, so as my horizontal lines are kind of squared off with the hoop. And again, as I said, you don't need to be millimeter perfect, because you're not going to notice it in the finished results. But we're getting pretty good there. He's just got to come a bit further that way. And because of that fullness in the belly, you do find you have to stretch the fabric out a bit. It's one of the rare occasions where I say to people it's okay to stretch the fabric. And you know what? I think we're in pretty good shape there. That's got to come back just a wee bit that way. And now that I've got that relatively in the position that I want it, I just hold my fingers on the top of the hoop and push down at the base here. Whoops, come out a bit there. And I'm pretty sure we're almost in. There we go, got that in. Now, I'm probably a little tiny smidgen, a millimeter or two out on the left-hand side. So I could release that, move it back up, but you know what? I might be able to just stretch that up a bit. So more to the point, stretch this one down a wee bit. There we go, that's better. I'm going to just pull that stabilizer, the topping out a bit. Probably need to come over a wee bit here. So you can see it's just a little bit of maneuvering, but I've got to tell you, this is a whole lot easier than doing it on a flat surface. So there we go. I think I'm close enough there. That's all hooped. Now here's the magic. When I take this off, all I've got to do is retrieve my magnets. It's very important. I had 8 magnets on here. So there's 2. You need to get all these out because the last thing you want to do is give this as a gift to a child or something and you've left a magnet sewn into the to Benjamin's belly. That would be no good. Now there were 2 magnets at the top, so we'll just go looking for them. There's one, and there is one more. There it is. Now if we look under here, we haven't caught anything. Yeah, there's a little bit of, just pull this back a bit. Probably a little bit of slack in my stabilizer, but you know what, that's not going to cause any grief at all. I could pull that back a little bit if I wish, but you know what, it's just not going to cause any problems. There's enough stability in that. It's actually quite firm, the whole thing. And if we lay him back down like this, you can see, it looks a bit uncomfortable, doesn't it, right? But trust me, he's not feeling anything. The important thing is that you haven't got any of the Embroider Buddy hooped into the back of the hoop. So I think we're good to go. I'm going to now, in just a moment, take him to the machine. We're going to load him up and you're going to see how it actually stitches. Okay guys, so we're back. We're now about to get Benjamin a makeover, and in that I mean we're going to actually embroider on his belly. So we've got him all hooped up and I know he looks rather uncomfortable. So let's have a look at what we're going to do next. So as you remember, we've got the center point here. I've got my hoop in place, all my stabilizers caught beautifully in the back there. And the next step is to get him on the machine. But before I do, I'll explain what we're going to do. I'm using a Brother NV800E here. This is kind of almost an entry-level embroidery machine, and good size, got the slide-on hoops, nice and easy to use. But there's a couple of things I need to do before I start sewing something like this. This is a relatively thicker object compared to most sort of embroidery that you might do on basic fabrics. So I will want to go in and check my presser foot height setting. And to do that, I am just going to go into my settings menu on the machine and scroll across here till I find my embroidery foot height, and it's already set on 2, which is fine. The default is 1.5, and I know that because the black box behind the number represents the default setting on the machine, but this is a bit heavier than normal, so I think 2 is going to be fine. So we'll just click that there, and I'll go back once speed's on 500. That's fine. We don't want to go too fast on this because we do have to watch this as it stitches out. So I'm happy with all that setting. So right now, I need to choose a design. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go through and load it. I've already saved it, but I'll quickly show you the process. It is just a case of choosing the design you want. You can use a stylus if you want, of course, and I think that's the design I've chosen. And then I've clicked set and then add, and I've added some text. So it was just a case of choosing the font you want and go through the process adding some text. I've already done it, so I'm going to escape out of that. Get out of there, go back to here. I've saved what I already have created in the machine, so I'm just going to open that design up out of memory. There it is, and we go set. Now, thing you've got to remember is we're sewing this guy on his side. So his head's over here, feet down here. That means you've got to remember to rotate your design before you start stitching. You should always think to do that with whatever you're going to be stitching, because I've seen so many people stitch out a big design on a garment and realize they've done it sideways, upside down, or whatever. So check your orientation of the design. The other thing I've done is there's quite a few colors in this design, and I've gone through and I've selected all my colors. They're sitting right here in front of me. And I like to do that because you make mistakes when you don't prepare yourself with the right colors. I'm using the Hemingworth thread, so they're all in the little cap system. Cool thing about that, they've got the little plugs on the top, so I've got no threads hanging around and getting tangled. All right, so secret to getting it hooped. You might look at this and go, oh my goodness, how is a needle going to stitch in there? You do have to play a little bit of gymnastics with these guys. It's not difficult, but you've got to make sure that there's nothing going to get caught underneath here, because trust me, it's easy to get the back of of Benjamin stitched in underneath the hoop, and you invariably will stitch right through, and you've got Benjamin sort of stitched right around the hoop, and you have to cut it to get it off. So you've got to make sure that you get the hoop bracket into the slide first before you worry about getting everything under the foot. So just hold everything out the way, just briefly, and just start the slide into the mechanism once you've got it started, and then it's just a matter of sliding Benjamin just gently under the foot, making sure your needle doesn't get caught anywhere. And then once you've got that in there, you can see we've now got the foot over the belly, and we just push the whole hoop into place like you would any other hoop. click down your hoop lever. A quick check around the perimeter of the design, make sure that none of his extremities are sort of caught in under the hoop, none of the back of Benjamin's backside is caught under the hoop, because you will stitch over it and you don't want to do that. But I know this is all perfect. Now, the secret to embroidering this is you do kind of need to babysit it a little bit, because if you left the machine and you know, for some reason his arm did that, you know, it might get caught, and you know, I don't know how that would happen, but it could. So just always babysit these machines when they're stitching. So on this type of product. So Benjamin's in place, I've got a full bobbin, I've got my design loaded, it's rotated to the correct angle, I've got my threads here, I know I'm good to go. So it's just a matter of loading the first spool of thread. And if we have a look, once we hit Edit, End, and Embroidery, the first color is Flesh Pink. So that's the color I'm using. Now, I'm lucky I'm using Hemingway thread. So all I'm gonna do is pop that up and take my Hemingway thread. I'm not even gonna thread it up here, because the Hemingway thread can be delivered from any direction. I just follow the numbers and get down to here. This is the only hard bit, and I'm sitting to the side of the machine, so it's a wee bit more awkward for me. But always make sure that you thread into the last guide, number 6 on the needle bar. And then of course with this wonderful auto needle threading, you just gotta put that foot down, thread the needle. I'm good to go, the light's gone green, everything's in place, and I can hit the go button. Okay folks, so 15 or 16 minutes later, we're now finished this design. It's all stitched out wonderfully from what I can see. So taking it off, it's just a case of reversing the process, lift the embroidery latch on the frame holder, and then just gently pull this back, making sure you don't get it caught. Obviously make sure your foot is in the up position, and just gently pull that through and out, and there we go. So there's our design all finished. All we're going to do now is take the hoop out. So no dramas with that. Just pop the hoop out of play. And sometimes it's better to maybe even trim off a few of the, if you've got any threads that need trimming while it's in the hoop, but you know, it doesn't really bother me, I can do it later. You will see that I've still got the stabilizer or the topping in place. But when I take both hoops away, let's have a look at exactly what we got. So we'll just peel this away gently. And of course our stabilizer at the back is just got to be trimmed back to about 1/4 inch around the design, and that'll just give it stability into the future. And the great thing about the EBs is you can wash these in a normal wash cycle, and they're going to last for years and years and years. And I think it's kind of cute. I do cuddles. So as I said, I've got a bit of trimming to do there. Now when you peel your topping away, it does perforate pretty well, but you want to be kind of gentle as you pull it, because you don't want to damage your stitches. So if it feels a bit hard to pull away, just cut it back. And what you can do then is just with a damp sponge or a wet sponge, you can sponge it away, or you could put it in the wash and it will disappear in the wash. This is a cold water soluble. I'm not going to pull it all away here because that'll just bore you to tears. But I'll just get the bulk of this away so we get a bit better of a view. And around the lettering, it can be a wee bit hard, so that's where you've got to be a bit careful. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm just going to pull that away there. You get the bulk of it when I do my final trimming on it. There we go. Still a little bit there, but that's right. This is a water-soluble pen, so that will just disappear when we wet it down. And of course, as I said, we've got to cut away the stabilizer at the back. I'm not going to worry about that for the moment, because what I do want to do is reach over and grab the 2 pods that go back in. Whoa, he's fallen on the floor. And the first one you've got to put in is the head pod. So there is a bit of a shape to it. You play around with it, you'll work that out. So we'll just pop that back in. And there we go, he's got his head back in play there. And now we've just got the pod with the belly. Now, obviously his belly's the protruding part. He's got a bit of a fat belly, which is fine. That's what he's meant to have. As I said, the stabilizer's still in place, but that's all right for now. So we just pop that back into position. And there we go. And then it's just a matter of doing up the zip underneath. And there we go. So once he's all cleaned up, cute as a button. I think my granddaughter will love this, but now I've got to do one for my grandson as well. Yeah, kind of cute. It's not complicated. The big key thing for doing an embroider buddy is hooping it from the start. That's the hardest thing. And if you've got a hooping station, that makes it easier. If you don't, you just got to work on a flat surface. It's just a wee bit more time consuming, a lot more time consuming, a lot more frustrating. Machine wise, as long as you've got a machine that will have about a 100 by 100 hoop and a bit of an arm space here that will accommodate these guys, you'll be fine. And all in all, just a fun project, and kids love them. Actually, everyone loves them, doesn't matter what age you are. So I hope that helps. That's an embroider buddy, hooped and sewn, and enjoy your sewing and embroidery and whatever it is you're doing, and make sure you give these guys a go. Cheers.